What zero tolerance school stories do you have? My sister almost got suspended in the 3rd grade cause my mom put a plastic butter knife in her lunch one day. I forget why she needed it for her lunch. One of the lunchroom aides spotted her using it and sent her right to the principal's office, and they called my mom to come in. A 3rd grader stabs an adult with a plastic knife. Knife breaks. Adult looks at them confused. This was 10 years ago. My cousin, 1 grade lower than me, got into a fight at school. Zero tolerance policy says they are both suspended. Attached to this policy is if a student is involved in 3 separate fights within their time at the high school, then they were expelled. Within 2 weeks of my cousin returning, one of the guy's friends started a fight with my cousin. They are both suspended. A few weeks after he returns again, another friend of the original kid starts a fight with my cousin. In each situation the other kid threw the first punch. Zero tolerance each time means it didn't matter. That is how children outsmarted the zero tolerance policy and why my cousin graduated from a private high school. That's really smart of them and really fricked up. Frick zero tolerance. When I was in year 10, grade 9 for Americans, we all had to line up to go into the dinner hall. For whatever reason they put the menu with what they were serving that day at the front of the queue, so I walked to the front to read it. As I was walking back, a tiny year 8 kid, grade 7, shouted over to me, "Hey, stop trying to cut in the line, you donghead." I just told him to frick off and mind his own business, as it's the kind of school where if it looks like you're giving in to a younger kid without fighting your corner, you won't hear the end of it. Then the little crap rugby tackled me, but he was too small to knock me over, so I just kind of stood there awkwardly as he tried to kick me. After a while I'd had enough, so I grabbed him and picked him up, put him against the wall where he was standing before, and turned to walk off. The headmaster was standing right in front of me and he'd been watching the whole thing. We both got sent to the reflection room, which is like a higher form of detention. The only time I got in trouble was for trying to walk away from a fight started by someone half my size who I probably could have hurt if I had wanted to. Thanks, headmaster. Now I know in the future that I should just deck the little bastard instead of being gentle, because the punishment is going to be the same anyway. In 9th grade I was in a class that had some disruptive students that always caused problems for the teacher. During the semester they were forced to sit at the desks nearest the teacher's desk. I wasn't a bad student at all, but for some reason I was forced to sit in the front of them. I was P. One day we had a substitute and my entire row gave the sub a very hard time. When the actual teacher came back, she forced everyone in my room to detention. Many other students protested for me, even the bad students in my row. She said, "That's too bad." From that day forward I helped the bad students to not get caught whenever they fricked with her. Good for you, man. I always liked to mess with teachers if they were unfair to their students. Not me, but my niece once had to do a school project about the Voyagers. We lived in a relevant area, in the computer lab, so she innocently typed in fur traders .org.net whatever. Of course it was P. She got suspended. We had to do a project on pirates for grade 12 history. Could not get research done due to piracy coming up on the school filter. Left a BB gun in my friend's car in high school. Security saw it and he got kicked out. I talked to the principal, who was our friend and mentor, about reversing the decision or taking the punishment myself. He was just as upset as me, but he kept explaining that his hands were tied. He finally just looked me in the eye and said zero tolerance. Actually, he used my name afterward, so I knew the conversation was over. My friend graduated from an alternative school. That's fricked up. I once got suspended because a security guard found an unloaded airsoft pistol in the back of my truck. Let me be clear, by pistol, I mean those ones made of clear plastic, and by back of my truck I mean behind the passenger seat of a crew cab with tinted rear windows. This security guard is really doing his job, eh? Marking these suburban high schools safe for everyone. Also, I had a friend who got suspended for bringing a metal butter knife to school with his lunch. A knife is a knife, people. There can be no tolerance for weapons or logic and reasoning. 2 people got suspended for fighting off school property with each other. Also, not my school, but a local school, and it made the news. A girl with Down syndrome or an intellectual disability said a popular athlete assaulted her in the library, and they made the girl write an apology letter to him, only to find out later he did do it many times. They made the girl write an apology letter to him. That is so sad. I hope she eventually got justice. When I was in 10th grade, I was eating dinner with my family and my dad accidentally spills his beer all over my shirt. No big deal, so I go upstairs and take my shirt off for the night. The next day while I'm getting dressed I see that I'm out of clean shirts to wear, so without thinking I grabbed the shirt from last night and put it on, eat breakfast and get out the door. The day was pretty normal until I was called up to the front office. I wasn't really a bad kid or anything, so I wasn't too worried. Once I arrived, the principal informed me that another student told him that I smelled like beer and assumed that I had been drinking. I told the principal about what happened last night and assured him that I had not been drinking. He tells me that it still counts as bringing alcohol onto school grounds, and for that I was suspended. TLDR. Some people drink their alcohol, others wear it, but it is all the same in the eyes of the principal. We have a zero tolerance no fighting rule in our gymnasium. Like even if you lay down on your back while you're getting jumped you'll still get expelled. Happened to get into a fight with a guy I honestly could easily beat down, but since I really don't want any trouble with the school or at home I just blocked my head until the principal came by. After a minute of discussion he told me that I'd get suspended for 2 weeks even when I told him that I didn't hit back. So I did what any teenager would have done, I think. I got loose from the principal and beat the other guy down and took my punishment. If you're gonna do the time, you might as well do the crime. My school had a zero tolerance policy on cell phones and electronic items. Obviously you can't convince a high schooler to not bring a phone with him/her, so the administrators would do raids occasionally and bust some phones each time. They didn't give it back until the end of the year. I don't think that is really legal for them to keep your cell phone for the rest of the year. In high school I got suspended for 1 week because I had a bottle of prescription painkillers in my locker. I was taking them because I got a serious knee injury while playing for the school baseball team. I also got kicked off the team and wasn't allowed to participate in any sports at school for the last 2.5 years of my high school education. The principal explained to me that they had a zero tolerance policy to drugs of any kind. The worst part is, I could have went to at least 10 different lockers in school and shown him drugs in there, but he wouldn't let me because I shouldn't be snitching on my peers. Screw you, Principal Vikers. I mean, usually you're supposed to give the nurse your meds, but I'm still on your side. They went overboard. I went to a very crappy school district. I mean, this place is scum in so many ways. My little brother has ADD and mild autism. He's a very nice kid and always has been. I mean, he opens doors for everyone and compliments people he doesn't even know. Anyways, there was a kid in his grade who was the biggest butthole. He was mean to everyone, even the poor kids who were his friends. He always picked on my brother and his friends, calling them retarded and everything else. One day, we get a code red. Everyone is stuck in their classrooms and there had been a recent trend in girls fighting in the bathroom, so everyone assumed that was what was going on. Number. I wish it had been a girl fight. I get called down to the office about an hour later. My brother and his best friend were walking to class. They were at the top of one of the stairwells when butthole Mikashat came up behind them and shoved my brother down the stairs as hard as he could. My brother tried to grab onto the brick wall to stop himself from falling and ended up dragging his hand down the bricks, ripping his hand apart. He still has the scar. He hit his face on the tile at the bottom after doing several head over heels rolls down the stairs. His nose and lip were bleeding and his back was hurt so bad they thought he had broken it. He ended up going to the ER. Fast forward a week later. He's back in school and the principal calls him to her office. This bee. I don't know how this bee was ever allowed to work at a school. She made my brother shake hands with butthole and makeup. She said the alternative was both of them getting suspended because she did not believe my brother did nothing to provoke him from pushing him down the stairs, despite 2 witnesses telling her what happened. My brother has been bitter over that ever since. Also, when my mom found out he had to shake butthole Mikashat's hand, she went to the school and confronted the principal. The principal told my mom, well, maybe if your son wasn't annoying it wouldn't have happened. My mom pulled her across the desk and a secretary had to pull her off of her. I like your mom. There wasn't really a zero tolerance thing back then, but school was over. I was starting my walk home and a friend runs by and drops his bag by me and yells to me to carry it. He were going to play hockey after school, so whatever. Nothing of circumstance came of it. I never heard where he was even running to. Next day teacher is all pee off. I go in to see the principal and turns out my friend was trying to pick a fight. Mind you, apparently all he ever did was run after someone but never even got close to them. Not even the same block. There was no fight. This also happened all outside of the school. So naturally my friend was suspended for a week and remaining days in that week. And because I carried his bag I was an accomplice in the fight, which never happened. I was suspended for the remaining days in that week. There was like 2-3 day vacation for me that I was happy to take. It was all crappy rainy days but I was happy to leave. So you got punished for a fight that never happened that you didn't know about. Not quite zero tolerance, but my friend's sister grew up in quite a foul-mouthed household, with older siblings. Her first words were son of a b, blurted out emphatically for no apparent reason at the breakfast table. And when she was quite young, 1st grade, some boy pushed her on the playground. She called him a boob. He broke down and cried. Told the teacher she had to eat lunch on the psychologist's office the rest of the year because she was a danger to the other students or something, and her mother had to come in. Mother told them that if they thought that was the most pressing issue they had, she thought they should look hard, 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 she thought the boob got in no trouble for pushing her because he told on her first. She could have easily beaten the crap out of him. I'm in Britain where zero tolerance isn't really a thing. I think the closest thing we got to zero tolerance were when teachers would hold an entire class back in detention, including the ones who were not disruptive and were doing the work. It seriously peed me off when I was at school. It happened mostly during years 7, 8 and 9. I'd have been 11 when I started year 7, which is the first year of secondary school in Britain. Teachers at my school did it because it was to punish the disruptive students. They wanted the innocent to blame the guilty and ostracize them so they wouldn't do it again. I don't have a story, but I was blamed for a fight that happened on a weekend that wasn't even off school grounds. This kid who doesn't even go to my school, who has a name really similar to mine, got in a fight with some kid at my school. So naturally they thought it was me. Thankfully a couple days earlier my friend told me about said fight, so I was able to provide some background information to get myself out of blame. But they took me to a friggin' room with the school cop and some other people and they were treating this like a massive deal. It's a fight that happened on the weekend at a scatter park, and one of the kids doesn't even go to the same school. Why are you meddling in on their business? My school had a zero hat policy because of gangs. I got suspended for wearing a coonskin hat. I guess I was representing the Davy Crockett gang. Everyone knows the Crockett's run the east side of this city. Bully punches kid in the face. Kid doesn't fight back because he knows he'll get suspended for fighting. Kid lets the bully hit him until a teacher gets there. Teacher gets there and gives a detention to the bully and the bullied. My stepbrother and his friends all got suspended for pretending to have lightsabers at recess. No, not plastic ones. Literally their imagination. WTF. The school was afraid they were plotting to take over the galaxy. A boy bullied me for almost an entire year. Called me fat. That kind of thing. I said if he kept talking to me I was going to kill him. I got in school suspension for 2 days. He got a talk from the guidance counselor about how you shouldn't bully girls you have a crush on. Chewing gum. Rather, looking like I was chewing gum because my jaw was sore from having rubber bands on my braces. Ended up in an isolation room for the rest of the day and then got suspended for a week. Looking back now I realize how stupid most grade school suspensions are because it doesn't really teach you anything other than the fact that you get vacation for looking like you're breaking a silly rule. Exactly. I work at a school, and a kindergartner told his mom that he tries to get in trouble on purpose because he knows that he will be sent home. All they learn is that they break a rule. They don't have to be in school. I was raped, molested every day by my co-op supervisor while I was high school. This went on for about 4 months. My parents found out by reading my journal, who then called my school. I was called to the principal's office and was then threatened with expulsion. I was 16 at the time. Sue the frick out of that school. The parochial school I went to had a zero tolerance for LGBT teens out of the closet. My senior year, right after I came out, the vice principal pulled me out of study hall and into his office to confront me about it. I'll never forget. I've heard some rumors. Are you gay, with a look on his face as if I had threatened to shoot the school up. Long story short, it was either go back in the closet or be expelled. I didn't want to leave because it was my senior year. I was almost done, and I wanted to graduate with my friends. In retrospect though, seriously, frick that guy in that school's administration. Should have said, look buddy, I don't know who you think I am, but I am not interested in sexual relations with a teacher. Then get him reviewed for harassment. My mom sent a plastic knife to kindergarten so I could cut up my apple during lunch. Cafeteria staff noticed and I almost got suspended, but my mom told them off, pointing out if you're afraid of a 5-year-old with a plastic knife, there's bigger issues. I wonder what they would do post 9/11. What would they do post 9/11? Probably taser you. 5-year-olds can be terrorists too, you know. I once got detention because the two guys behind me were talking in line. We used to have to line up several times during the day, army style. Straight lines with uniform inspection. Perfect silence. My only detention to date. A bigger kid pinned me in a corner and tried to stab me with a sharpened pencil. Say what you will about the lethality of a small stick of wood, but having been stabbed with one before, I could tell you that it hurts like a bee. Anyway, he pins me between two columns and attempts to shank me with it. I disarmed him and pushed him away, and then I moved in to tackle him so I could actually get some maneuvering room to escape and get help. Help came, and we both got suspended for the last week of 8th grade. Frick zero tolerance. When I was in high school, a girl spit in my eye. I see that as the lowest form of an insult you could possibly do to someone, so naturally I retaliated. I yelled and screamed while my friend held me back. Eventually, due to heart issues and being overwhelmed with the stress on my body, I passed out. I woke up in a classroom and that was about it. I gave the office my account on things and they did their investigation. Well, if I remember correctly, it was a day or two later before we were both suspended for fighting. I tore my labrum in a football game. I was on the bus back to school. I was holding my arm in pain. The kid next to me called me P. Told him to go frick himself. He spit on me. I hawked a brownish yellow spitball into his eye. I proceeded to beat him to a bloody pulp with my good arm. Don't fricking spit on me. I got jumped at my middle school. Kid whipped at my backpack and threw me to the ground. He proceeded to punch and kick me. When he ran off, I threw a pebble and told him that I'd kill him. I got suspended for making a threat, despite having a split lip and black eyes. Another kid pushed me and I landed on my wrist wrong. Kid was coming for me again and I threw a fistful of sand. School said there was nothing they could do because my arm wasn't broken. I did, however, have a severely sprained wrist, yet principal looked into suspending me for using a dangerous weapon. My mother ended up marching to the school and got me out of that one. Till pocket sand is a dangerous weapon. One wet day in grade 4 we were all confined to the tarmac. This was done for the same reason that children are bad enough. Muddy children would be insane to deal with. However, something was stopping the proper drainage around a sewer grate. This fascinated the boys in my class and we promptly decided it required contest. We lined up and began seeing who could jump over this very sizable puddle. Laughs were had and a few socks were soaked. This behavior brought down the full wrath of the administration. We had flagrantly disobeyed the nature of our asphalt confinement and spit on the dry ideals of the school. What could they do when faced with such a mass uprising in puddle jumpers? To be sure, none of us dared to ever send our persons hurtling over a body of water again. We were all held in detention for 3 lunch periods. Every member of my grade with a member was forced into this, where we were to novelize our newfound understanding and respect for obeying and staying dry. Sadly, it was all for naught. Many of those punished went on to do many more terrible dirty deeds. In 6th grade I got a referral for saying heck. Teacher didn't even hear it, just got told on. Some kid jumped on my back and I said what the heck, and he told the teacher, freaking bulls. But heck is just a place, not a swear word. 3rd grade. We were at the playground and this kid was trying to choke me. A teacher told us to come down but we didn't. Eventually teachers came and took us to the principal's office. AMD, the principal gave us a week without recess or lunch. That's freaking child abuse. So I sat next to this kid in computer class. We were like 14. Every day, he would just call me gay. Constantly. All semester. It wasn't really a big deal for a while. It just got freaking annoying hearing the same thing constantly every day all semester. Teacher did jack crap about it. Finally, one day, I said, "Hey, if you call me gay again, I'm going to punch you in the face. You're too gay to do it." So I hit him once right in the middle of the forehead. Got some crazy good momentum built up from the pivoting desk chair. Completely quiet room. Then a loud smack. No one freaking noticed. Anyway, he went to the principal. I admitted it cause I'm a bad liar. It was pretty satisfying because it left this giant purple knot on his forehead. My parents had my back because I'd tried getting the teacher to stop him beforehand. Anyway, this was right before the standardized testing, and I was gonna be suspended during that. I was one of like 4 kids that always had crazy good scores on it, so they called our house and asked if I'd come take it. Yay. Sure, I'll be there. Okay, but since you're suspended, you can't ride the bus, then I won't be there. Finally they decided to send a freaking teacher to get me from my house. Turns out it was the computers teacher. Weird, right? I had to sit in a separate room and take my test so I didn't endanger the populace or some crap. Later in the semester, they had some sort of field trip for people that did well on the test. They said I couldn't go because I was suspended during the test. So my parents took me out of school that day for a dentist's appointment. It was a good day. Then there was a time I got jumped on by a kid because I had my elbow on his desk. While he was flipping my desk over on top of me, my elbow hit him, so I got suspended. My mom told the principal she was just going to start teaching me and my sister to beat the crap out of anyone who touches us if we're gonna get suspended anyway. He freaked the frick out. Holy frick, that school was terrible. This is probably going to get really buried, but why not? My school's response to everything was to suspend you. These are all personal experiences I went through. My high school principal had a severe obsession with what I wore. Always would stop me in the hallway on the way to class to point out my clothes are too revealing. Tell me to lean forward for a cleavage test and would send me home for disrupting the school. And after 3 strikes you were suspended for 3 days. I never even wore revealing clothes, unless you consider a button-up flannel, tank top, and jeans revealing. I mean, I was 14. 50-year-old men should not be concerned with the non-existent cleavage of a high school freshman. If you were tardy to school or to class more than 3 times a semester, you were suspended for 3 days. If it happened again, you were suspended for 5 days, and so on. Cause, you know the best way to punish someone for being late and missing out on class is to cause them to miss 3 whole class days rather than only the few minutes they were late. If you took too many sick days without a doctor's note, you were suspended. I mean, you missed too many days. How about we cause you to miss even more? Not everyone can afford $300 doctor visits to confirm you have a terrible cold. If you miss too many total days of school, suspension sick days terides included, you were suspended. I know this, because I missed a total of 30 days of school thanks to being sick and previous suspensions, and whenever I tried to come back to school, they would suspended me for 3, then 5, then 10 days. When I pointed out the stupidity of it all, they just quoted "We are a zero-tolerance school, and we do not support truancy of any kind" before handing me another suspension slip. At least I got to watch my dad call the head principal every name in the book. The cleavage test sounds pervy as crap, and not totally buried by the way. American Friends High School had a star athlete that way overestimated his untouchability when he went after a very well-liked but non-popular guy. Got them both suspended for 2 weeks for fighting even though the non-popular guy just took it. Mr. Star Athlete got his career cut way short when hairline fractures nearly shattered his entire shin in training. The doctors said it was impact stress from repeated long jumps, but the rumors had it that it was helped along by a carload of non-popular guys' friends picking up Mr. Star after he got blackout at a party and giving him a going over with a rubber hose pipe. This thread needs more vengeance in it to satisfy the rage it generates. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.